Hello everyone, we are the Casual Ramblers. I'm Jack Richardson, joined once again by my co-host Will Taylor.
Hello.
And just to let all of you know, that's right, it is Christmas. This is our Christmas special, the last one before our break, where we'll be definitely stuffing our face with
Absolutely.
all things jolly, turkey, pigs in blankets. I know Will might be leaving out the Brussels, but each to their own. So I'm excited. Are you?
I'm absolutely buzzing. A bit rude about the Brussels sprouts there, but you are absolutely right. I will be. I can't wait for a bit of turkey. And just obviously seeing the family and everything's just brilliant, isn't it? After being away at university, which we are.
Exactly that.
So, but yeah, as you always say, let's get amongst it for our Christmas special.
Let's do it.
Oh.
Okay, so as always, I'm sure you are well aware by now, we start things with a results roundup.
Yes, we do, as always.
And there's been some corkers, hasn't there? Starting off in the Prem?
It has. It's been a good weekend, actually, of football. We've seen a lot of good big results, and the most notable, obviously, had to be the fact that that City's, everyone was talking about City being the Invincibles, but that's not possible anymore. A huge win for Maurizio Sarri's Chelsea.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Chelsea got the win there quite impressively. I'll be honest, I thought City's unbeaten run would go on for longer than what it has done, but, credit where credit's due to Chelsea. They did really well, didn't they?
But they absolutely did. I think the thing was, and again, you may disagree with this. I think the case was that it had to be complacency from City. It couldn't be anything else because every single team they've come against, they've brushed to the side. I was at the game at Wembley, and even though Spurs came a little bit closer than maybe a Southampton's and stuff like that, it was still never in doubt that City would win. It was definitely a case where Man City deserved to win, and they were brushing teams aside. So I almost think, no disrespect to City or Guardiola, but they swaggered into the place thinking, Chelsea were in bad form. It was almost already done before they weren't concerned Liverpool beating Bournemouth. They swaggered in there and almost underestimating what a good side Chelsea actually are. I think that's the case anyway.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. I mean, I don't know, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but they didn't even start a striker. Gabriel Jesus, who's, I think a fantastic striker, was left on the bench. I know that Chelsea didn't start one either, but I could understand that from their point of view. Probably a more mobile player in Eden Hazard being up there was probably their idea in terms of pressing that really effective City back line. But from Man City, surely there must have been some. I think they just thought they'd have breezed it. They had about 4 attacking midfielders on the pitch, and then eventually that sort of seemed like where the game was lost. They just couldn't quite get a proper foothold on it, especially in the second half when they had to go forward a bit more. I think you're completely right there. There probably was a bit of complacency. But again, as I've said, credit where credit's due to Chelsea. They still had to go out and win the game no matter how City are performing. So massively well done to them.
I mean, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it, with Chelsea? Is that I think a lot of people, they've been on a bad run. Obviously, they lost to Spurs. They've not been performing fantastically. But what a lot of people forget is that they were unbeaten for the first 6 or 7 games. It wasn't, this isn't how they've played all season. It's not like a case where United, which we will touch upon in a minute, that they've struggled all season. They're still, I reckon, one of the favourites to get in the top 4. They're juggling Europa League football. They're a good team, and the fact that City sort of went in and I don't want to say disrespected it, but the fact that they just waltzed in, played 4 attacking midfielders, sort of went for it more than you thought they would have done, was a bit of a shock to me because Guardiola's, and I think that's where Guardiola's definitely learning between coaching in Spain and coaching in Germany for 2 of the best teams, is that if you do that against teams like in La Liga or the Bundesliga, teams tend to roll over. They see you playing 4 attacking midfielders and go, right, we'll sit back and try and nip one on the break. But you've got 6 or 7 teams in this league, in the Premier League, that aren't going to do that. They're not just going to roll over, And I think that's where Guardiola's learning his lesson. And if he does want to do that unbeaten thing, he's certainly, and he's done it in the Champions League when they lost to Lyon and drew to Lyon as well. And there needs to be a change of mentality there, I think.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, in other leagues, Guardiola would have seen teams just sort of allow his side to attack them. I think for the sort of the early exchange in the game, that was the case. City did have chances. Chelsea did allow them to come forward, but I think that was only just so Chelsea could get a foothold in the game. And once they had that, they were a lot better of a side. I think the goal just before half time was massive as well. That
absolutely.
was almost perfect time to score. It meant they could start the second half like with a nice little bit of momentum, and they didn't really have to worry so much. They had that goal behind them. But yeah, I think as you said, if Pep wants to go along with this unbeaten run, I think how many teams have actually gone a season unbeaten? Is it Celtic and Arsenal? I can't think of any more.
Well, I mean,
But
Preston North End in the very early days.
Many
I think
a year ago.
The first ever competitive
Yeah.
season, I think, went unbeaten, but it's a bit of pointless knowledge for you.
Yeah, I don't actually know the ins and outs of the starting 11 of that Preston side. So if you are someone that does know, I do apologise. That's a poor bit of knowledge from me. But I think historically, if you look at an unbeaten side, the starting lineup is pretty consistent throughout the season. I think you'd agree with that.
Absolutely, definitely.
And the Man City one, as many fantasy Premier League fans will know, has been chopped and changed massively, with big players being left out of the squad with no explanation. And I just don't think that's something that is. I just don't think that's a characteristic of a side that will be consistently strong all season.
I think it's one of Harry Redknapp's famous words. Congratulations on being king of the jungle, by the way.
Yeah.
We have got to say, is that you don't change a winning formula. You never ever change something that works. And although Pep's got all these great players at his disposal that he's got to keep happy, if you're winning games against big teams, just don't change it. You just keep it the same because you've got to, and granted mistakes have got to be made for you to learn, but that is a huge loss for City, and it definitely, as we'll talk about a bit later on, gives Liverpool a massive hand up in the title race already. The fact that they're still unbeaten and City aren't is massive. But shall we move down a league, as we always do? Relegate ourselves. So moving into the Championship, a few notable results actually. Results that you'd expect, not any coupon busters that messed us up really.
The Championship was very good this weekend.
Very good this weekend, if you are a betting man.
We don't condone betting. But yeah, no, very sort of went as expected, no major upsets. One result I'd like to talk about is the Sheffield United win over Reading. I know Reading are struggling, just lost Paul Clement, but good result for Sheffield, and it's been a very long time since we've seen them in the top division, and they look on their. I'm not going to say on their way, but they're definitely fighting for a promotion place.
Absolutely. I think the thing that's notable enough, obviously, a fantastic win for them at the weekend. They, 2 goals in the last 10 minutes, which I know you're going to talk about in just a second. What I quite like about the way Sheffield United have done it is they haven't. You got Leeds and you got Norwich up the top, and you got your Middlesbroughs, your West Broms, all in the mix. But Sheffield United seem to be the only team that haven't thrown millions and millions and millions at it. I remember their manager Chris Wilder is a fantastic manager. He was from Northampton actually. Not bitter about it, but he sort of relegated Torquay. But whatever, we won't talk about that. The year they got relegated. But they signed him from Northampton. They gave him a reasonable working budget for League One. Up they went with record points. He consolidated them in the Championship, and now they're sort of working their way up. And I think it's testament to him and the squad that they've got. Don't get me wrong, they're a Premier League club. I don't think there's any dispute at all for that. I think Sheffield United are a Premier League club. They've got the infrastructure is of a Premier League standard.
It's definitely of that structure, yeah.
But so I don't see why not. I really hope they get back there. But a good win over Reading. Then they're not, setting the world on light. They're still, I think it's 6 points off the top of Norwich and quite a way off Leeds. And as we said, the playoffs very tight, aren't they? Team could finish 9th or 3rd. It's hard to tell.
Very tight, yeah.
But you can only credit someone for what they've done. I don't know what you think about it, but
no, I think it's really good. And I think if you look back sort of a year or two ago, it was actually the other side in Sheffield Wednesday. They looked good for a while, didn't they? They were sort of pushing for those promotion spots. And it looks like the tides have turned and Sheffield United are back on top. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
No, definitely, absolutely.
They definitely do look like the better side in that particular city. And I'd like to see them continue this good form and come the end of the season still be in and around the playoffs, even automatic promotion. We'll see how it goes. Talking about their rivals, just wanted to quickly note Norwich's win. Again, if you'd have said before the game that they'd come away from against Bolton with 3 points, you'd have said, yeah, of course they will. But they did leave it very late. In the 3rd minute of injury time, they scored to make it 3-2.
But that's what champions do, isn't it?
But you know, they left it, as you said. Sheffield left it late. So did Norwich. I think that is a sign of a good side, and it's good to see that in the Championship. It has been quite an exciting league, although the results were sort of to be expected. There was still excitement there, and it's good to see.
It is, absolutely. I think the thing is, you know, there's a lot of leagues that are hard to be successful in across the world. For me, without a doubt, the hardest league to get out of, you know, in terms of promotion, has to be the Championship. It has to be. You don't see, you know, the last time, I suppose Cardiff last year going up unexpected was very impressive, but it's such a hard league. You've got to be really consistent, and you've got to win games like Sheffield United and Norwich are. So long may it continue that the football's so entertaining in that division.
Yeah. Again, moving down another one, shall we?
We shall. Another win for Portsmouth.
And another 2-0 to talk about.
Another 2. That's 3 2-0s in a row now. Absolutely superb. But yeah, another win for Portsmouth. Again, we just spoke about Sheffield United on their way back. I think we can certainly, with a degree of certainty, say that Portsmouth definitely on their way back.
What is it, 6 points clear they are?
Something, yeah, absolutely. And I think that they swear they don't belong in League One. They've had a few years there now. Obviously, they suffered their darkest day, losing 1-0 to Torquay, which was absolutely fantastic day. But yeah, again, just fantastic that they're on their way back up to the Premiership. So fair, Championship even. So fair play to them. What do you think of it?
I think it's good to see, because they were a side that, when they were in the Premier League, I think there's a side that a lot of people loved. A lot of people have said, you know, Portsmouth away days are some of their favourites. Always a great atmosphere.
I can agree to that. Yeah.
They're a side that I really enjoyed having the Prem. You know, I know they had problems, you know, like administration and like the money problems, and that's part of the reason why they've had this sort of fall from grace. But it's really good to see them on their way back. You know, nothing's set in stone, but I'm expecting to see them in the Championship next year.
I mean, how important, you know, obviously they appointed Kenny Jackett over the summer, or maybe last summer. How important was that in the terms that he's a bit of an expert? He got Wolves out of League One first time of trying, which was obviously really important to Wolves. How important was that appointment to making sure that Portsmouth kicked on a bit?
Yeah, it was very important, and I think it just showed the intent as well of the club. He's a great appointment. He's a really good manager, and they know the job that he can provide, and he's, you know, doing exactly that.
Absolutely.
And you know, in the end, looking back, it's a masterstroke from him, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it certainly looks like it's going well. Moving on again into League Two. Bury 2, Exeter 0, the fourth 2-0 we're going to talk about. A very popular scoreline over the weekend. Again, less about fair play to Bury, who are obviously fourth now. They're definitely kicking on for promotion after being relegated last year. But it's Exeter without a win since October. I mean, how you know, can they turn it around and get back in the fight for promotion, or do you think they'll just continue dropping down the table now?
It doesn't look like they're going to turn it around anytime soon. They are really struggling after not a bad start. They have been struggling in recent weeks, and they're just dropping further and further away from even those playoff places. So I think they have got quality in their side, and they could be able to turn it around. It's just, I mean, they're going to have to do it soon, because teams, you know, such as Bury, because there was only 2 points between them at the start of the day, teams just getting further and further away from them, and they really do need to pick up soon, I think.
Absolutely. I think it is definitely a, you know, and I spoke about this at the start of the season, in that, you know, Exeter had a great manager in Paul Tisdale. And he obviously went to MK Dons in, you know, slightly complicated circumstances. There's a breakdown between him and the supporters. But we could see Exeter, and I'm not trying to say they're going to be anywhere near the relegation places, because they're not. But I think it was 3 years on the bounce, or 2 years on the bounce. Exeter got in the playoffs, you know, and went to Wembley. You know, and I know it's not great, they lost twice, fair enough. But I think those days might be over for Exeter. They've got a young manager, don't get me wrong, Matt Taylor's done fantastic there. And the calibre of players he's brought in is really well. But if they continue sliding, I think it could be a while before we see them with a shout of League One for a while. Because again, they started well, but I agree with you, I can't see it turning around at the moment anyway.
No, neither can I. Yeah, definitely, I don't think relegation's a worry, but I feel like this season is just going to be a bit of a stalemate. They're going to, you know, stay in League Two and hopefully sort of regroup and rebuild, ready for the new season. That's sort of all I can say on it, really.
Absolutely.
So yeah, once again, we're going down into the non-league side of things. We do love our
We do love our non-league
We
football.
do love
Absolutely.
it, and for me, one of the big results, Harrogate 4, Aldershot 1.
Oh my God, Aldershot is struggling, aren't they?
They are struggling massively. They've been one of my favourite sides in the National League for a little while. They've always looked like contenders, at least for playoffs, and this year they are really, really struggling. A goal difference of, what is it, -18?
Something like that,
It's like
yeah.
the third worst in the league. They're just really, really leaky this season. I don't know what it is. They're losing by some pretty big scorelines.
They are, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing with Aldershot is that, Gary Waddock, the manager there, I think he's done fantastic over recent years. The only thing they've missed is that cutting edge of being able to make that final leap into League Two, which they unfortunately haven't done. But I think they've really got to be careful because, and again, banging on about being a Torquay fan, I've been there. It's very easy to slide down that league, and I can into the National League stuff. They're only a few points off relegation, and it's so easy to slide down. I mean, they've got a good manager, they've got good players. I'm sort of just wondering what's going on at the moment.
They definitely have to have a look at themselves at some point and try and work out where the problem is. I personally can't work it out. Because not a lot has changed. It's the same man in charge who has been brilliant in recent years. They're just leaking so many goals and struggling to score as well is another thing.
Absolutely.
And as you said, it is an easy league to really slide down in, and with teams below them with a better goal difference, they do have to be really careful.
They definitely do. They've got some good players though. Still got the core of the team: Jake Gallagher, Scott Rendell, some good players there. But it's hard to. They're definitely not going to turn it around this season and mount any sort of challenge. They'll be around and about the mid-table mark if they turn things around. But I've seen it happen time and time again. Those teams that you think will never go down, much like your Torquays, your Wokins, your Yorks, that you think it gets like 10 games to go and you're thinking, here we go now, they'll pick some points up and climb out. And they don't, and it just doesn't happen. And we just see them slide and slide and slide. And and York are only just sort of rebuilding themselves now. Luckily in the National League South it's between Torquay and Woking to go up, I think. But again, it's so easy for teams to slide. Hereford, we saw it. They ended up going bust and having to form a new Phoenix club just because they were one of those teams that kept sliding and sliding, although more to do with financial troubles. But I think Aldershot certainly need to be very careful. But I mean, it's worth noting, Harrogate just been promoted. They're third.
They did really well.
They're third. They're doing fantastic. They're definitely one of the favourites for promotion already, I think.
Yeah, they're going to have to keep it up because there is bigger sides in and around them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they are doing really well, and I think come the end of the season, I do think we'll see them sort of around the playoff places.
Hopefully in there, yeah. It's always nice to see the story of an underdog. The last thing on the results roundup, not really part of the results, I guess. Worth talking about Glenn Tamplin at Billericay. Obviously, his dream of getting them to the Football League seems to be over as he's put them up for sale and cut the wage budget by £12,000 a week. It was $22,000, it's going up to 10. What do you make of that?
All good things must come to an end. And this is exactly what's happening with Billericay, I think. It's always been a bit absurd, hasn't it? The whole situation at the club.
The songs in the change room,
yeah. The songs in the change room, the ex-pro players there, Tamplin himself, something of a madman. It was bound to happen at some point. You just cannot keep that up.
Well, it's more to do as well. He was, I think, just before they appointed their current manager at the minute, he appointed a manager, found out 3 hours after appointing him that he'd slagged him off the year before and sacked him.
Exactly.
And it's just absolutely mental. Like, the players have got to have no respect for him. And I think that's sort of come to fruition now. He's realising that the higher it gets, people aren't going to respect what he's doing, and the more stick he's going to get. And I don't think he can deal with that personally, which is why I think he's put the club up for sale.
No, I don't think so. I mean, don't get me wrong, Billericay sort of got a lot of attention when Tamplin first took over. The changes started to happen. They were sort of a social media phenomenon. But there's no substance to that. That has to die out eventually, and that's exactly what happened. And we see it with so many things. Like, yeah, football and social media work brilliantly, and that's sort of what got Billericay this fame when that all started to come out. But it just there's no past to it. There's no substance, and it was eventually going to come to an end. When your back's against the wall, it's going to happen, and they are sliding off. And as you mentioned just now, it looks like it's between Woking and Torquay.
I really hope so.
For the league, yeah, I'm sure you do. Eventually, I'm sure you're hoping it's just Torquay in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Woking have obviously got a fantastic round 3 tie in the FA Cup against Watford, which, best of luck to them waving the flag of non-league. I really hope that's a distraction and we can kick on. I really do, because we've done really well. But I'm not going to bore everyone with talking United.
I hope there's no hint of jealousy there.
They did beat us in the first round, so there's a massive hint of jealousy there. Moving on, because I'm going to start crying. We will move on to you. I believe wrote a letter to Santa Claus, didn't you, about what you wanted for Christmas?
Yeah, it is Christmas time, and as per usual, every single year around this time, I think a letter does have to be written to a certain Mr. Claus.
Absolutely, Saint Nick.
Yep, Saint Nick. So yeah, I've written mine as always.
What have you asked for?
Okay, well, there's a few things I've asked for.
Right, please enlighten me, mate.
I think the first thing on my list was a new Declan Rice contract at West Ham. Consistently, week in, week out, man of the match. And that's probably the thing I want the most. Secondly, some socks, to be honest. I am getting old.
Yeah, we are university students. We are running out of socks.
I have run out of socks and pants, so I am going to have to pay £5, might I add, for a wash after this.
It's not good.
It's not good. Please help. Anything else on my Christmas list? I would say probably. Well, I mean, Declan Rice is so important. I can't think of anything else. But I'd like to see, obviously, watching them week in, week out. I would love to see West Ham continue their good form and continue to push, as absurd as it sounds, for this Europa League place. We're only 5 points off the top 6.
Oh, here we go.
But for my good friend Will, I would also like a strong showing from Torquay over Christmas.
I appreciate that, mate.
At the end of the day, when they lose, it is me that has to put up with it.
Absolutely. Well, luckily, we aren't lost in about 10, so it's not happened for a few weeks.
It's been a happy place to be. I'll flip that over. Anything you've asked for specifically this year?
I just, honestly, in 2019, we do not lose Gary Johnson. That is my one wish. Hopefully Torquay keep Conor Lewenhay-Evans. That's the other wish. To be honest, other than that, just, a bit cringe, but just to have another good year of football. I've really enjoyed the last year of football that we've had. Seen some great, obviously it's not been ideal as a Torquay fan, but we've seen some good football, some great players coming through. Obviously Luka Modric winning the Ballon d'Or, had a great year. England getting to the semi-final of the World Cup. So nothing's going to replicate that next year, but another fantastic year of football would keep me more than happy, because that's all we focus on all week, isn't it? Just thinking about what's occurring on a Saturday. So another good year of football is the top of my wish list, but a Torquay United promotion sits a close second. So that's both our letters to Santa out of the way. I think we should move on to probably the biggest story of the weekend. Part of this the Chelsea versus Man City game we talked about, and the racist comments to Raheem Sterling. What do you make of all that?
I just think it's stupid, to be honest. I understand that there is abuse towards opposition players, referees, sometimes even your own players. But it's just the stupidness of a racist comment. It's as if Chelsea don't have their own black players. Arguably the best player in the side, N'Golo Kante, is also black. Club legends such as Didier Drogba. I don't does that fan forget where they come from in that moment? Does he, will he praise them after saying that to Raheem Sterling?
It's funny you say, because Kante scored. Was he celebrating?
Exactly. What did he say when Kante scored? That's what I don't understand. Another black player who we're very lucky to have in the Premier League opened the scoring in that game, doing his side a massive favour, and then he goes and says that to Raheem Sterling, and I'm sure he was supporting Sterling at the World Cup when he was one of England's key players. I just think it's such a stupid thing to say. I'm sure you'll agree.
I mean, I completely agree. I think the thing is with Raheem Sterling is that he's always been a player that's been subject to a lot of criticism, and rightly or wrongly, that should never stray into racial slurs. Right? Whether he's the gun tattoo we had before the World Cup. He's always been in the media for one reason or other, whether it's right or wrong. But you just can't. I don't think you can. There's no way you can condone it. And the fact that Chelsea have banned 4 people, fantastic. That's they're making a statement. But much further than this, I think they just need to name and shame them and get them arrested. Let's be real about this. Let's set a marker down for football. let's just say this is not acceptable. If you are caught doing this, not only will you be banned from this ground, you will never go to a football game again, and you will never, and that's it. And you face the consequences. You have a criminal record, because if you go and say that to someone in the street, that is a criminal offence. I think that's what people forget sometimes. This is a criminal offence. This is something you can't do. And fair play to Raheem Sterling for speaking out as well.
Yeah, I don't think he shouldn't have had to. It shouldn't have got to that point where he has to speak out, though. One thing I did want to talk about, actually, is, you mentioned it there, how he's treated by the media. It's something I was thinking about. Like, why Raheem Sterling, and why do they treat him the way they do? It's not like he's the only black player in the Premier League. It's not like he's the only black player at Man City or in the England side. But he has been so unfairly treated. I saw something interesting this morning, actually. You mentioned it with the gun tattoo. He then had to post a statement after the sort of abuse from the media, saying what the tattoo was dedicated to, which was quite touching. It was to do with his father being shot. And in that statement, he said, because of that, I will never touch a gun. When they repeated that quote the following day in the news roundup, they actually altered his words and said, I will never touch a gun again. Which it's just, I don't understand it. It's just, lying in the simplest form.
Yeah, it is lying.
And I don't know why they have to paint this picture of him. I don't understand it. He was one of our key performers at the World Cup this year. He was a bright talent coming into the England side in the 2014 World Cup. He's been excellent in the Premier League. He's done so much in by such a young age as well. I just do not understand why they treat him like this.
It's interesting you touched on that, because the funniest thing I saw, do you remember after Euro 2016 he bought his mum a house, 2.25 million on this mansion, and the media went after him for it. He just got knocked out by Iceland. How dare he do something nice for his family? Phil Foden, of the same club, a few years younger, bought a house for his mum. In the same newspaper, the same article was published, except Phil Foden was adored for it. England's starlet Phil Foden, whereas Raheem Sterling was slated for it. I think it's time to address the issue. The British media is racist. It is, and by this treatment of Sterling compared to Foden, it is being racist. And there's no way around it. It's how can it have anything to do with anything other than race? If you're gonna congratulate Foden for something but slate Sterling for it, and the only difference between them is their race.
Bearing in mind as well that although Foden is a brilliant player, Sterling had achieved more by that age.
Absolutely.
So they can't even use the argument of, well, Foden's achieved more, because there was actually the same thing popped up. There was another, forgive me for not knowing his name. I only briefly flicked over the two articles this morning, but there was recently another Manchester City youngster who is black who had a similar article to what Sterling had. He also treated his mum, with his, obviously, he's doing well. He's a Manchester City youngster earning good money. He's also treated his mum, and the article headline was, Manchester City youngster spends so and so on his mum despite never starting a Premier League game, and sort of slated him for it. And as you said, Phil Foden got the good treatment, and I just don't understand it. Regardless of if the black player hasn't started a Premier League game, you should congratulate him.
Well, first and foremost, it doesn't need to be in the news. It's not newsworthy. The fact that someone's buying something for them. Imagine if I've bought my mum a bottle of gin for Christmas. Is that going to be in?
I hope she's not listening.
Yeah, no.
Santa's bringing it. We didn't get anything.
I've just forgot we are uploading this before Christmas, and I've totally ruined the surprise. So if you're listening, Mum, I'm terribly sorry. But I bought her a bottle of gin, right? Is that going to be in the Sun tomorrow? University student Will Taylor buys bottle of gin for Mum. No, well, it's not. It's not newsworthy buying your mum something.
Exactly.
Let's publish things that actually need to be published, shall we? Things that are informative instead of just gossip and nothing stories. It's getting to the stage where it's actually ridiculous now.
And not only that, the newspapers have slated, as we've mentioned already today, the racism seen at the Chelsea game, and obviously slated those that were involved. But they're guilty of it themselves.
It's pot kettle black. That's all it is.
Massively, and I just don't. Just the absolute hypocrisy of the media and of news outlets is a joke.
Absolutely. No, I could not agree anymore. So anyway, I think we've ranted enough about that for the time being, given the time we have. So second of it's leading on from that, and speaking more about the actual football that went on, which seems to be a bit forgotten for fair enough reasons. So City did lose on Saturday. Liverpool won. Who's your favourite for the title now? Because I know mine. I'm just curious if you see that, if that's changed your opinion.
City have been my favourites for the titles so far for all of this season. And even after that game, it does remain that way. I do still think City are the better of the two sides. Don't get me wrong, I think it's been fantastic watching Liverpool. They've got such a dynamic front three. Yeah. Not that Man City don't, but Liverpool's is a joy to watch. They've got two excellent fullbacks in Robertson and Arnold. Yeah. Van Dijk's really good. Alisson's been a good signing. They've been really exciting to watch. I just think, in terms of the way Man City play, I just cannot look past it. Even losing against Chelsea, even in that first half, that first half was an absolute footballing masterclass. I remember they played it round the back for about 30 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but against a high-pressing Chelsea team, they looked really confident back there. And then Ederson, who is the goalkeeper, picked out a pass that, if that was in the final third, people would have been going on about it for years. It was, honestly, just watching them play is excellent in a different way to what Liverpool is. Liverpool's is exciting because it's sort of unpredictable. There's a lot of electricity, they're fast. But City is just, I think, they just know each other so well, so technically gifted. I just cannot look past them.
Well, I'm afraid, shockingly, I know I'm going to have to disagree with you here because, first of all, City, fantastic, but their eyes are on the Champions League this season. There's no doubt about that. City's eyes are on the Champions League. Pep wants the Champions League for a team that's never won it. Liverpool, they haven't won a Premiership title in 20 odd years. They've never won the Premier League. Jurgen Klopp obviously hasn't got, if he has any sense, he hasn't got the best cup final record, as we spoke about. I think it's 1 in 8 or something now. So why not go for the title? This is the only thing that he's ever done really successfully. They've definitely got the depth in the squad for it. And to be honest, it looks like they're not going to qualify from their Champions League group. That's the way it looks. So if they could avoid Europa League alongside it, maybe play a youth team in the round of 32 in that, then why? I don't see, because they could be out of Europe, no distractions, looking at the league table, going, this is ours for the taking. A week between each game, whereas City have got midweek games to go for. So, for me, it's got to be Liverpool.
Well, that is something I wanted to mention. Obviously, they've got Napoli. Is it tomorrow?
I think it's at some point this week. Yeah.
So they've got Napoli in the final round of fixtures for the Champions League. I think if they beat them, they can still qualify. No,
just
about.
Yeah. It's a bit of a.
Do you think that game could end up being pivotal for the rest of their season?
Absolutely.
Because if they win that,
they're through.
Surely their eyes are. They have to be towards the Champions League at least a little bit, especially if they get a kind draw.
After coming so close last year, I certainly think
exactly
so,
that. They're definitely not going to want to roll over after losing it last year. So, do you think, in terms of, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to looking at the title, do you think the Napoli game could be?
I think
a big one.
I think it's pivotal. It's definitely pivotal to where their season goes from here. It could go one of two ways, couldn't it? If they lose it, it's a bit of a win-win for them, because if they lose it, even though it'll be very frustrating at getting, losing in the group stage, it's not an easy group to go through. Napoli, after losing Sarri, have certainly replaced well and look quite good. So I don't see. And if they get through, brilliant. They're into the round of 16. They've got a good chance of kicking on, because those European nights at Anfield are so hard to compete with, and teams don't go there and win. It's a fact. Teams do not go to Anfield and win. So we've seen Red Star and PSG both get done there. So I could probably see them beating Napoli as well. So they'll certainly fancy themselves if they get there. But it's not the worst thing in the world if they don't, because it's worth remembering that. in all fairness, the league title was their priority. It's got to be. They haven't won it in years. You've got United who've won it more recently, and they're in probably one of the worst points in their history at the moment, in terms of, well, certainly their recent history, in terms of they don't look like they're going to make the top four. So they've got a chance to catch up with United in titles. They've got a chance to really kick on and take the title off what is arguably the best Premier League side ever in Man City. So for me, that's what they've got to do. They've really got to kick on and try and win the Premiership, and I certainly think they can. I think Klopp's got it in him. I think they've got the depth, definitely in midfield. They're that good going forward. If Salah's having a bad game, they've got Mane, who's fantastic. Firmino's doing superbly. Sturridge seems to be hitting some form off the bench. I don't see why not. When if they're going to take games as serious as they did and act so professionally like they did against Bournemouth, and City are going to swagger into games like they did with Chelsea, there's no doubt in my mind that Liverpool can win the title. But we shall see come the end of the season.
It's a good point, well made, and I think no matter who ends up at the top, if either of them, although I doubt it'll be anyone else, it will be a great achievement and really good to see. Talking of sporting excellence, we had probably the biggest fight of the year at the weekend in Fury versus Wilder. Quite a disappointing draw.
Yeah, I think.
Do you think that was the right result, or do you think someone else?
I think anyone. I'm not claiming to be the biggest boxing fan in the world, and I'm not going to claim that I got up at stupid o'clock to watch it, because I didn't. But what I can say is, after watching the fight back, which I did, and having a think about and thinking about it, anyone who knows boxing knows that Fury didn't lose that fight, and people like me who don't particularly know boxing know Fury didn't lose that fight. And there's no way Wilder won it. It was only in the last couple of rounds Fury got knocked down a couple of times. But if he gets back up, which he did, then there's no problem. There's no. I don't see the issue in that. Yes, he probably did lose those rounds because he got knocked down, but the others, bar two, I think he definitely won. So for me, I thought it was a farce. I think Tyson Fury said himself he was robbed of the best comeback in sporting history, and it's hard to disagree with that.
Yeah, it is definitely. I watched the fight, and I think the worst thing for me was the judge that scored it in favour of Wilder. He had Fury losing the first 4 or 5 rounds, and I think everyone else probably in the world had him winning them. I understand Wilder definitely won the rounds where Fury was knocked down, probably 1 or 2 other rounds, but even then Fury still should have come away with the win.
Absolutely.
I think the fact that he got knocked down twice and still got a draw speaks volumes about how he performed. Even that wasn't enough for a win for Wilder, and it shouldn't have been enough for a draw, but what it will be, whatever will be, and a rematch has already been sanctioned by the World Boxing Council, which is exciting, but I must say I'm a bit disappointed because I did want to see Anthony Joshua fighting the winner of that fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll just see where it goes from here.
Absolutely, I think the thing with Fury as well is that he, the fact that he's, you've got to think Wilder's been a professional boxer now for years. Fury's not only. He's been a boxer, beat Klitschko, got the title, been stripped of the title, put on 10 stone, lost 10 stone, come back as a professional boxer, and then been robbed of a win against Wilder. So Wilder's had much more preparation, because Wilder's been able to prepare for the fight, but while Tyson Fury's had to lose 10 stone. It's not as black and white as it seems, that it was man v man. And what I found quite touching is that in an interview with BT Sport, Fury said if he gets back, if he is lying on that canvas, and he can open his eyes, no matter how much he's hurting, he will get back up. And he did. And he worked so hard, and I certainly think he was robbed of it. He will win the rematch. It should be in the UK, certainly. I think it'll be at Old Trafford or something like that, because Wilder had his chance at the Staples Centre, and certainly was not the winner in it, but came away with the draw, luckily for him. Keeps hold of his belts. The winner's got to face Joshua now. I'm gutted he won't be facing him in April, because we were going to get tickets for that, and certainly looking forward to it. But Tyson Fury said it himself. He's happy to fight Joshua now. He wants to fight Joshua because that's the fight Britain wants to see, and I would love to see it. I would pay unholy amounts of money to see it, because it is two of the best heavyweights we've ever had in British boxing.
Yeah.
That we've got now. So why not? I think it's what the fight everyone wants to see. Fury wants it. It's just whether Joshua, it is probably the biggest threat Joshua will have to losing his title. So it'll certainly be interesting to see if by the end of 2019, hopefully we should have a lineal champion of the world. So that should be interesting. Who do you think that'll be out there
three? Personally, Fury. I do think he's the best boxer of the bunch. He might not have the sort of spectacular knockout power that the other two possess, but it doesn't matter. You can't hurt what you can't hit,
No.
and I think Fury is the best boxer of the three. I don't know about you.
I mean, I think Fury's the best boxer, but I do think power plays a part. And we watched Joshua Povetkin at Wembley, and he'd probably lost a few rounds in the first 2 or 3 rounds in the first.
Didn't matter in the end, did it?
And we just see it was like there was like a change in atmosphere in his. And it was honestly like driving a car. He just went up 2 or 3 gears. He just went, and all of a sudden that was it. Povetkin was out, and it was almost like he was playing with him. And he was like, "Go on, I'll let you have a little bit." And then he picked and chose when he could knock him out. And I think that certainly could be the case. Certainly if he faces Wilder, but I do agree. Fury's the best boxer of the bunch, and it would be a spectacular comeback if he does manage it. So best luck to him, and he's been a massive advocate for mental health problems, which of course is huge as well in letting people know. So fair play for Tyson Fury for that. So yeah, that's pretty much that's who I think will do the boxing. So one last thing, I believe.
Yeah, I mean that's basically in terms of the sport. It's definitely the end of the episode. But as we've mentioned, it is Christmas. We are excited. We've had the Christmas songs on since. Well, I think I've had them on since the clocks went back in November, to be honest. But
I think I was a week after you, but yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so
had them through the wall. So
yeah, I have had them on very loud. Just a little nice way to end it all. What do you think is the best Christmas song of them all? And what will you be blasting out?
It's a huge question. This Christmas, I'll be blasting out Last Christmas. It's not my favourite song, but purely because it's a song that's caught on quite well at Playmore that we sing to Gary Johnson. This year to save me from tears. I'll give it to Gary Johnson. That's certainly what Talkie fans have done. So that's the song I'll be blasting out. But in terms of what the best song is, I think it's Band-Aid. I think it's that one. I think that's absolutely super. Maybe it's that video of Smithy singing it in the car, grabbing the Stacey Christmas special. That is special. But yeah, that's my favourite one.
There is something very special about that song, and it does bring a tear to my eye every time, especially when Smithy sings it. For me though, don't know if it's the most popular choice, but it would have to be Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas. I absolutely love that song.
So you.
And I'll just end it with a little rendition. All I Want for Christmas is a Declan Rice contract at West Ham.
You have said that, yeah. You've made that abundantly clear. That is, I think, all we have time for today, though, Mr. Richardson. Before you do burst into song, which I'm sure you will.
I don't think people will want to hear that. So Merry Christmas to each and every one of you.
Absolutely.
We are going to have a little break to
go home, I suppose. Yeah.
Open up our presents, eat the turkey.
Not the sprouts.
I will be participating in a bit of sprout eating, but we'll keep that behind closed doors.
Absolutely. I just did want to say as well. I know the podcast hasn't been going very long, but to those that do carry on listening, we're obviously on the 6th episode now. I think it is. A massive thank you. The support is brilliant. The likes on YouTube, the retweets, everything is really appreciated. Just keep listening. We'll try and keep the content up. Hopefully, make it a little bit better as we go on. But yeah, a massive Merry Christmas to all of you. A Happy New Year as well. And hopefully we will see you after Christmas for episode 7.
Yeah, definitely. Just to touch on that, it has been, it's not been a relatively new thing for us.
Absolutely,
this podcasting. But so thank you to all of you that do watch and listen, should I say, whenever we drop a new episode. And I know we've laughed and joked about what we'd want for Christmas, but just to, that continued support is, it does help us, doesn't it? We do like it. It's nice to see people getting involved in it. So hopefully that will continue after Christmas into the new year. So it's a goodbye from us for now, but we will be back.
And a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.